Leslie Roberts is a frequent guest on that segment. We're happy that he's joining us this week. City Councillor for Peter-McGill in the Ville-Marie Borough. He's also part of the executive committee responsible for the English-speaking community, universities, in the downtown core. Leslie, thanks for coming back.
Good morning, Elias.
Listen, I got to start off with the heavy. We were just speaking to Leslie Perez about these protests that happened over the weekend, showing these figures hung in effigy. The group behind it says this is political protest. It's protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Many are saying this went far beyond that and is hate speech. How do you view it?
Well, let's begin by first what we know. There's a problem with anti-Semitism in Canada. Your previous guest outlined exactly the issue better than I could. And with that in mind, when you see an effigy with a man with a kippah hanging, and that's what I saw at the protest, not knowing who it was, didn't matter to me. Anytime there is someone hanging an effigy to protest, it's crossing the line.
Okay, crossing a line. So what do we do about it?
Well, the police, as you know, you said it earlier, I contacted not only the police chief, but more specifically the commander of the district, who both of whom are looking into it, and it's now in the hands of the hate crimes unit to see what happens next. They won't comment on it until their investigation is complete. But in the meantime, I am asking, what else can we do? Can we perhaps change the route of the protest? Is there an opportunity here where we can, sort of put down in writing what is the line, define what they cannot cross? I was there, Elias, and I can tell you, I was having lunch with a friend. We came upon it by accident. It's happened to be my route home, and I followed them to watch to see what would unfold. Mm-hmm. When they stopped in front of that restaurant on Sherbrooke, the scene of the hose incident the week before, and started screaming obscenities at the owner and making accusations that had nothing to do with the incident, that was crossing the line. They blocked the traffic there for quite a few minutes, and I texted the commander, and he said, by the time he got back to me, he said, they've moved on. Well, that wasn't my point. My point was they stopped. This is a protest. They can't stop and block the street. So there are a number of issues that check all the boxes where I think that it's time to put in writing, A, what the route should be, B, ultimately, how do we make sure that it keeps moving so that it's not blocking, whether it's streets or private property, and C, define what is acceptable when it comes to free speech.
Is there fear, Leslie, as to what would happen if we actually took a tougher stance?
Fear? Why would there be fear?
Well, it seems to be a combustible group. So what would happen if the police actually started to enforce laws, arrest people?
Let me begin by saying they are enforcing the laws. The question is, when was the line crossed? Most of the protests for the last 2 years have gone under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We may not agree with it. You may not agree with what they're saying. But we in this country, one of the things we value is the ability to be able to speak our minds. The question is, at some point, when does it cross? When does it no longer become just a peaceful protest against something that's happening in the world? And is it intimidation for a community? The mayor has said it best. And this is an issue that's come before council quite a few times just in the last 6 months. And the mayor said, our job at the municipal level is to bring communities together, make sure that every community is safe. And if they're not, then we have to act. That is where we are in this particular point.
There are laws already in the books on so many things, on intimidation, on hate speech. Doesn't seem to have changed. And we can go back on, 2.5 years of this. This is not the first time where people have said, whoa, a line has been crossed. And then there's an investigation. And then it's determined, no line has been crossed. So I'm just wondering if you're at your wit's end here with what can be done simply with words.
Let me tell you what happened to me at the protest, and I haven't shared this with anybody. As I was standing there watching with my friend, I noticed that 3 women who were with the protesters started doing selfies, but they were purposely in front of me trying to take my picture. Mm-hmm. You know how that happens where they're doing selfies, and I could see that they were maneuvering, and I was wondering something was happening. So I went over to them and I said, hi, I'm the city councillor here. I'm just curious why you're taking my picture. Before they had a chance to respond, Elias, 3 masked men from the protest surrounded me. And they literally screamed at me, why are you talking to them? Why? And I explained. First of all, I identified myself myself. And I said I was asking them why they were taking my picture. At which point, my friend saw that I was surrounded, saw a cop on a bike, told him to get over there. And as he was coming over, I said, "Why are you guys wearing masks?" And the guy pulled down the mask and in my face said, "Yeah, now you can see my face." That's intimidation. That is not peaceful protest of something that they support or object to. And that's where I personally decided I'm going to call the police here because A, it happened to me, B, I saw what happened to the restaurant owner, and C, they were blocking traffic and the lines had been crossed. And then, of course, not to mention the effigy, that is not acceptable in our city.
It's funny, Leslie. I don't know where to go from here. Like, you're definitive. Like, you're making it very clear. I don't know what the follow-up is to that.
Well, let me tell you. Yeah. Let me tell you. I'm waiting for the police to tell me how we're going to handle this going forward, whether it is or isn't a hate crime as they see it. And ultimately, I put in the request to see if we can move the protest away from the residential neighborhood, which happens to be Sherbrooke Street in the Golden Square Mile in my district. And I suggested they do it along René Lévesque, where there are fewer people who would be affected by the loud noise and potential intimidation should they cross the line again.
Leslie,
how does that sound for the future?
It sounds like something we'll have to follow up when you come back here in 2 weeks, and I appreciate that. I want to touch on something. It's not just in Montreal, by the way. You actually you continue your you've started a column in the Suburban, the pages of the Suburban, which is nice to see an elected official talking to the public that way. And you just published a piece. How did fear become normal? And it's actually about an event that you attended in Toronto. Your brother received an award in Toronto. Congrats to your brother, by the way. And you weren't thinking about the award last night. You were thinking about something else. Fear, as you put it. Tell our listeners about that.
In the last month, I have been to 3, I would say, Jewish community events. And each time, there was huge security. I wasn't told where the venue was until the very last minute. Yeah. And when I got there, I went through a screening of questions. One case, they were looking in women's bags. And these are Jewish community events. This is not an international security symposium or whatever. This was literally an organization or organizations that were celebrating their identity. In my brother's case, he was getting an award. He's editor-in-chief of the National Post, full transparency, and his coverage of anti-Semitism and the problem in the country is for the award that he was getting, the Grafstein Prize, in Toronto. So I went there as a proud brother to support him. But each time I just think it's come to this. And I asked questions, being a former journalist, to people in the room, and they said, this is the reality for Jews in Canada today. How is that a reality that is acceptable in our country? That is why I wrote about this piece, because when it becomes ordinary, which is what I think people are sort of assuming this is ordinary, then it's wrong, and we've lost our way. And that's why I wrote the piece in the Suburban. No community, regardless of where they're from, should have to undergo what this community undergoes. No community should have to fear living in Canada. We failed the Jewish community, as far as I'm concerned, right now. We have to figure out how to fix it. We have to figure out how to make this community that helped build this country, that helped build our city, feel that it's home again. And that's why I'm speaking out. I don't have the answers, but I'm raising my hand with a question.
Well, Leslie, I too have had to not know where an event is going to happen, right? Like, you're at an event, a Jewish community event. They're like, come to this event. Can't tell you where it's going to happen. We can only tell you like the day of because of security concerns. Yep. It's absolutely bonkers that we allow no other group would have to live with that in this country, it seems.
And I salute you for doing your part, because I don't think mainstream media, as you've mentioned in the previous interview, covers the event if it is anti-Israel or anti-Jewish. The way they would cover other events in Montreal. Yeah. I'll see a protest, and then I'll turn on the news, and it won't be there. And I'm like, why did they ignore this story? I don't understand it. And that is something else I talk about in there, is that if it happens to any other community, I asked the question actually when I texted the commander. I said, if the treatment of the LGBTQ, I'm a gay man, so that's why I asked the question. If the treatment of the LGBTQ community was what was happening to the Jewish community today, Mr. Commander, with due respect, would you act the way you're acting right now?
Yeah.
I didn't get an answer, but I made my point, I think.
There is no other minority group, if you paraded down the streets of Montreal hanging effigies of people with pride flags,
Right.
Like happened this, if you did that, no other minority, or let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. This is not biased. This is honest. It simply would not happen. There'd be national commissions invoked the next day about that type of hatred. Leslie, listen, we've discussed. I want to thank you so much for your time. The other things that we may have wanted to discuss this week, pale in comparison, we'll save that for another time. Okay.
All right. I appreciate the conversation. I think we have to have it more frequently, and thank you for giving me the segment to express my frustration. You know, I'm not Jewish, but I'm a Montrealer, and no matter the community, if they're discriminated against or there's racism, we need to stand up. We have to have each other's backs.
Leslie, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Take care.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Everybody